Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Abnormal Pictures podcast. I'm Steven and that's Christian. Today we're going to be talking about some Spider-Noir stuff that our good buddy finally finished up here after the last episode. And by the way, happy anniversary to you for our 1 month. Hey!
Hey, yeah, we finally reached a month, and what better to talk about than Spider-Noir?
Yeah,
So, yes, I did my homework,
yeah, finally.
and let me say, this iteration of Spider-Man, Spider-Noir, or whatever you want to call it, they did exactly what you need to do when you want to make something good, but also change the lore a little bit.
Yes.
You were going through the lore of Spider-Noir and seeing all the crazy things that happen in the comics. The Spider-Noir comics are so crazy, by the way. If you guys want to
Yeah.
check those out, I definitely recommend it. It's crazy. The show, not the comics. I know we were talking about Spider-Noir fans. They have those niche fans that are like, "Oh, this is not what the show is supposed to be like." Yada yada yada. Stop it. Just enjoy the
Yeah,
show. It is
exactly.
a really fun show. I watched it in black and white because that's how that show is intended to be watched,
Mhm.
and it was so cool. The only thing I would say in the later episodes, they kept bringing up like how he's yellow like a banana, and I'm watching it in black and white, and I'm like, I
Yes.
can't wait to watch this in color.
Yeah.
But there's things like that. But plot wise, it was such a good show. Like it was such a linear plot. They didn't really try and focus on any subplots. I didn't think, which I
Mhm.
really liked. It was just one linear plot. It happened over the course, I would probably say like a few days or something like that. But it was such an enjoyable show. It was Nick Cage in his element. Anyone that knows Nick Cage kind of knows what you're getting with him. He's been around for a long time. He's done a lot of different roles. This is Nick Cage at his best. It was awesome. They had a great way of explaining Nick Cage's takes, and they made it part of the character, which was really funny. I'll try not to spoil too much and still give a good review of the show, but they explained his takes in a way that made sense for the character. And it was such a good show. I really enjoyed it. The villains were great. Megawatt is maybe the most villainous
Yes.
villain I've ever seen ever.
Yes.
That dude had no redeemable qualities. He was just straight villain doing bad things. He didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And now
As
talking about St-
Oh, go ahead. You go ahead. Finish.
I was gonna say, talking about your favorite character in the show, Cat.
Oh yeah.
If
Hey, that's a
anyone
pretty
knows
woman
about
right there. That's a pretty woman.
if anyone knows about Black Cat in the comments, you would have not been surprised about what happened in the show with her because it was so on point. You didn't really know it was gonna happen until it happened though. And it was like, oh, yep, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. Instead of taking the time to like set it up as a character, it's like the Gwen Stacy thing. You know, Gwen Stacy is gonna die in Spider-Man unless she becomes Spider Gwen
Yeah.
in like the Spider Verse. However, you know what's going to happen to the character. You know what the character is. You know, even just playing the games, like replaying the games again for the PS4 launch and stuff like that. She's a betrayer. Like for the mainstream audience, they know that she's a betrayer. However, yeah, like you said, they came out and it was like right in the episode at the end is when she betrays him because she finds out during the episode instead of being a big build up or whatever,
Yeah.
like, oh, if I go to this doctor, I can. And again, I thought the doctor might have been Livia, type of Doc Ock character. However, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will get into spoilers, so here's a spoiler warning. I am going to spoil it. um with the comics, like you were talking about, and I was telling you, they very well could do a season two, and very well could do a World War II like in the comics for Spider Noir. And I really do think that the Freckles, the son of the Doctor, could be the Doc Ock character.
Oh yeah.
Because in the comics, for
Yeah, we
those
were
of
talking
you,
about it. It's
oh, sorry, there's a lag. For
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, for those of you who have not read the comics, the Doc Ock character is a paraplegic in a wheelchair who is a Nazi like experimenter scientist, right? So he goes and does work and does the genetic stuff that his mother in this iteration was doing in the show. So to me, you de-age the character, you have an actor, and you, the rule in comic shows and comics in general is if you don't see a body, they're not dead. And that's even sometimes,
Yeah, but
Lazarus Pit, whatever.
yeah,
But
but
to
you got
me,
to it before I could.
yeah. So for me, seeing the character, and then it just cuts away, there is a very real possibility that that character becomes Doc Ock. In my opinion, in season 2, which I think they will greenlight. I don't think you have this type of success, especially with almost, by the way, no advertisement. There were a couple of one trailer that came out, and it was really close to the release date. I had no idea, as I said last episode, that this show was coming out until I saw a tweet and somebody's like, hey, talking about how good the black and white is for the show. And I was like, wait, it's out? And then the whole season was out. They didn't do the weekly release. They dropped it all at the same time. But they did, as you said, a great job sticking to the roots of what those characters should be. Megawatt is from the comics. Obviously, you look at him more as an Electro. He's not really the same. Megawatt was in, I think, one rendition of Spider-Man. I think he was in, like, one comic. One run. That was it. He wasn't in Spider-Noir. He was in the regular, like, Peter Parker timeline type of deal. So it's an obscure character. I obviously felt more like they were trying to do Electro, but they took the name of Megawatt because of either maybe it was licensing. They didn't reference Tombstone as Tombstone, but he was listed as that if you looked on Amazon when you were watching. They showed that for the character, like for the actor and how they show the name of who they're playing. They put him as Tombstone. They never referenced him as that. You knew who he was. Same thing for Sandman. They never referenced him being Sandman. But so, and the same thing with Cat Hardy. I mean, come on, guys. So it has to be either something to do with the rights, or they're just trying to, obscure. Maybe it has something to do, as we were talking about, with the character integrity for Spider-Man. I don't know. Which is why they called him Ben Reilly and Spider-Noir versus Spider-Man and Peter Parker. But again, I told you, alias. They had Ben Reilly as the alias after he came back from the war. So very interesting stuff. And I'm glad that you liked it as much as I did.
So, one of the biggest things I thought was like the villains.
Yes.
We talked about MCU and how they have their villain problems. This show shows how you should build villains. It really does. Like not everything has to be like Thanos level and shit like that. Like you can do these smaller villains, and they did a good job. Something surprisingly the Spider-Man movies haven't done great yet is having quite a few different villains and mixing it in to where it doesn't feel overwhelming. Like we talked about Spider-Man 3. They did a bad job with it. No Way Home did a decent job with it. It wasn't overbearing, but it was also villains we already knew and we've already seen. This show introduced new villains and everything. Like we had Man Spider, which he didn't really have a big plot other than he gave Spider-Man his powers and boom, dead.
Yep.
But I mean, they kind of did the same thing with Molten Man though, because he died first episode. That was insane. They like killed him off quick. But like you said, Sandman, Megawatt, Silvermane,
yeah, and Tombstone,
and Cat, like Tombstone, like they were all great. I was blown away. Like the acting in it was
yes,
phenomenal.
yes,
And I can't emphasize that enough. That's so important. Like a lot of these superhero shows, they'll be a superhero show, but they don't have good acting. I mean, we talked in nauseum about the Flash, the Arrow. The acting just fell off in those shows, and that's part of what made them not as enjoyable. Because you can have a somewhat campy plot like Spider-Noir did, but if the acting's bad, it's not going to hit the same note that you would have if you had the good acting. And that's what made Spider-Man-Noir so good to me is you could tell the actors enjoyed what they were doing. They were having fun with it. And I mean, Nick Cage, come on, man.
Oh man, he was having a blast, and that's the thing. when he had done his press tour or whatever, he was talking
yeah.
about how he watched Breaking Bad and Bryan Cranston because he was very anti doing a TV show. He was always like, I want to do movies. And he said that himself. Like, I don't want to do television. However, the scene that he referenced was in Breaking Bad where Walt is just staring at the suitcase. And he's like, I feel like you can tell so much more in a spread out format with a longer story. Like, you are capable of going and actually expressing as an actor how a character should be instead of being condensed into an hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3 if you're, or 5 if you're Zack Snyder and his release of the Justice League. But that being said, yes, they all had a blast. And I told you that in the last episode prior to you watching the series. Robbie Roberts, like the side characters even have a great time. Janet is hilarious. Just the scenes that she's not in very many. That's a very fun character. And, by the way, she's a goat for slapping her across the face twice. That's my goat.
I was actually just about to mention. I was about to mention that, this was a campy show, but she was able to deliver on the depth of that character. Like, you could feel the emotions when she slapped Cat. Like,
yes,
that is when you have great shows, is when you can do the comedy and then you can add stuff like that and it still delivers.
That really is attributed to the writing, and you brought it up about how the plot is very linear. You don't have a lot of side things going on, and so that for me, it felt like an 8-hour movie. That's how it felt for me. Like, and I binged it. I know that you didn't completely binge it, but I watched it straight through. So I sat there for maybe 8 hours and I was just watching through. It felt completely linear. The story was complete. There were no cutoffs. You got very few interactions with the side characters. There were a couple of things like in the prison where they're getting Megawatt released and whatever, where you have no Spider-Noir. However, most of it, Ben Reilly is the guy you're following. You really don't have a lot of side stuff going on. And so that, I think, attributed heavily to it being as good as it was. And as a result of that, having a linear plot, you get to focus on those core characters. And the fact of the matter is, when you have actors that are having a really good time, obviously, in the roles, on top of a good, well-put-together story, you can take in all of these extra villains and things like that. You can do a Sinister Six. That's what I'm trying to allude to.
Yeah.
You can do that. Like, we see it in the Spider-Man PS4 game, right? So we understand that, but that's a playable experience. You go through it, and the story, you can spend 30 hours or more on the game if you really want to, right? But in a show, they have proven not only can you do Man-Spider, which I talked about last episode, you can do Man-Spider, and it works if you write it correctly, which maybe for Brand New Day, I don't know. But you have that. You can do a Sinister Six. You can have these characters, and we saw it in No Way Home. However, the plot was really less of a regular Spider-Man plot. It was a multiversal level event, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we were getting in No Way Home. But you can do a Sinister Six. You can do campy stuff. And by the way, Nick Cage had a great performance, like you were alluding to. The spastic, the campiness, the ticks doing the, all this. He was able to do that, and they wrote it into the character, which is so phenomenally, it's so well done. And I loved it. I still give it like an 8.5 out of 10. But that's just for me because, like I said, for some of the emotional beats, I mentioned this last time, like you said with Kat Hardy, you knew she was going to betray him. I still was like, oh, that bitch. Like when she did it. But I knew that she was going to do it because she was in love, obviously, with Sandman. And they told you that very early on, right? As soon as she figured out there was a way to cure his disease. And by the way, that is a really clever plot point. To make the villains that they are having a disease that will kill them if they use their powers. I thought that was extremely smart because it takes these characters and puts them into a situation where you know who they are. You know that they have these powers, but in like mainline Spider-Man, these guys are going to have their powers and they're completely fine with it. Megawatt was the only exception of a character who genuinely did not give a fuck. Megawatt, he didn't care how he used his powers. He was going to use them bitches to own the world. But he was a psychopath. And I mentioned that before, that these villains, you have depth with all of them except for him. Silvermane has a little bit less depth than Tombstone or Sandman. But in the same regard, you can do that. When you have villains that have deep plots, you can throw in one completely insane bastard. You know what I mean?
So happy with that show. And I'm glad. I'm so glad we got something good out of that because it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. And like you said, it followed a linear line, but it also set up for potential future stories. And that's what's great. And that's what Marvel needs to continue to do. We don't need these stories that jump around here and there. We need these linear stories that we can follow along. Daredevil season 2 was on track. Followed a linear line. There was kind of a little jumping here and there, but that's what made Daredevil 2 good. We knew what we're working towards. The shows are bad when we don't know what we're working towards. I know WandaVision, they tried to do their thing, but they had the mistake of they tried jumping around too much. They tried using too much. Oh, this is gonna happen. It didn't work. It was unfortunate, but if Marvel can continue to put out stuff like this, granted, I know it's under the Sony line, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's under the Sony line, so it was made by Sony, but hopefully Marvel can take some note. The MCU can take some notes. They can put out some better TV shows than they have put out. I mean, Loki was really good, but outside of that, we haven't got a lot of great TV shows from them. So I'm hoping this moves us in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mentioned that in the last episode, obviously alluding to Sony. The fact of the matter is, they have the capability and they have the rights to be able to make shows and or movies like this. The fact that they haven't, and the fact that they've done instead Spider-Man spin-offs with characters without Spider-Man, it doesn't make any sense. And obviously, it's just a rights grab to make sure that you're re-upping and that you don't lose the rights to Spider-Man to Marvel completely, which I understand. However, when you take a character like this, and this is all birthed, by the way, from Spider-Verse, which is also a Sony property, when you have something with success like that, and you have characters like Spider-Noir, you take Spider-Noir, you do a spin-off. You can take a 2099 and do a Batman Beyond type of series. You could very well do that with that character because Miguel is a badass. We love him, right? That being said, you could do a kid's show with Spider-Ham. You could do that. You could do a Spider-Gwen story. And by the way, that would be an awesome story so we can see more in depth what her universe is like. You could do a live action version of that character with the punk rock, with the Peter Parker being the sidekick character. That'd be fun. You can do all of these things. And you saw success. The first one was Miles Morales having success because as soon as he had success, that opens the floodgates to, I can do all these. And by the way, we could do a real Ben Reilly too. We could do a Scarlet. We could do that. I think so. Oh, you disagree.
Could, but that Clone Saga had such controversy around it. And don't get me wrong, I love the Spider Scarlet costume. That's probably one of my favorite Spider-Man costumes. But that storyline had so much controversy around it. It was great for the cartoon show.
Yeah, the 90s.
I don't know how we pulled that off for like an actual live action.
Well, again, we just did it with Spider-Noir, and there were like 2 fans in the universe of Spider-Noir prior to the actual Spider-Verse movies, right? Nobody even knew that the character existed, minus like if you played, what was it, Web of Shadows or Shattered Dimensions? It was Shattered Dimensions, right?
Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah, so
Web of Shadow.
Yeah, if you played those games, then obviously you knew the character, but you really didn't know the lore. And by the way, we got Vulture in Spider-Verse from Spider-Noir. He came from that universe, and you saw how fucking insane that he was, by the way. Could be a really cool character in a potential season 2. But, like going back to Scarlet Spider, it didn't work for Spider-Noir until it did. You can rewrite, and by the way, it doesn't follow the comics. It doesn't have to follow that storyline, but you could do a clone in the same way you did a Superboy for Superman, and it could be
Yeah.
pretty cool. But that's the thing. You have to have writers who care about those characters. I think it would be very interesting to do a Scarlet Spider story.
Oh, I do too. Like I said, that was one of my favorite Spider-Man costumes growing up. We'll see.
Yeah.
One day it'll probably happen. We'll see. But are you ready to jump into this next topic? Because we also disagree on another thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Let's get into Wolverine and the
All
PlayStation
right.
reveal. Yeah.
All right. So I'm a huge Wolverine fan. I've been waiting for this game for a long time.
Yep.
We finally got a game. We finally got a gameplay trailer. I'm super hyped about it. But there is quite a bit of controversy around it because of some things the creator said. So I'll jump in right into that. The first controversy being that there is no X-Men in this universe. Here's how I interpreted it. Team X, yes, it is a team that has existed in the comics.
Yes.
This is predating Wolverine's time with the X-Men, much like happened in the comics. There's a lot of story of Wolverines that happened before the X-Men.
Yeah.
Now, what's the controversy is, sorry, they're they're saying it like they're trying to set it up to where there's going to be no X-Men.
Yes.
I didn't take it that way. The way I took it is, yes, there's no X-Men right now. It could happen down the line. The reason I think they're saying it that way, and I told you this, Insomniac had a huge leak. Was it last year, maybe the year before? They had a huge leak for the Spider-Man 2 game where there's supposed to be a whole multiverse thing, which is why you collect all the spiders in that game.
And
They
that
had a
is
leak
in the
about that.
game too. Yeah.
Yes. There was a leak for the Wolverine game originally as well, which is part of the reason I think the game got pushed back because of that leak. So the reason I think they're being so coy about saying, yes, we're going to have the X-Men is because I think this is supposed to set up an X-Men game because this does take place in the universe of Spider-Man. They had said there's going to be no him meeting Spider-Man, which I'm completely okay with. You can set up a game within the same universe and not have those characters cross paths. I don't think they need to cross paths yet.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think they're trying to set up a future X-Men game because Insomniac is clearly putting together a gaming universe, which is something I don't think we've seen done yet across multiple titles. I mean, you had the Arkham games, which set up like the Arkham universe. We haven't had this happen yet where we're setting up a whole gaming universe within different games. So I think that's why they're trying to play it so coy. I never took it as there's never going to be X-Men. And truthfully, I wouldn't be offended if they don't do a X-Men team. If they do like a X-Force or a X-Factor, you could do that as well. We were talking, there's so many different X teams. There's teams that had the X-Men and it goes by a different name because I believe X Factor at one point was like Cyclops, Jean, and all them. So you could do that and still have your X-Men, but they're not called the X-Men. They can be called something else. And something great that Insomniac has done, they did it with the Spider-Man games. They take things and they change it and they do it well. Like Venom was never at any point Harry Osborn in the comics, ever. And in this game, they made him Venom, and they did it in a way that made sense, and it was still done spectacularly. So that's why I think that they can still do it, and it'll be fine. They've done it with Spider-Man, they've changed quite a few things, and it worked. So I'm not worried if they never do the X-Men. You do not share that opinion on it, and I'll let you jump into why.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with what you said, first of all, with Spider-Man 2 and Venom and the Harry storyline. A lot of people did not like that. There was a Spider-Man 2 is rated very poorly among the gaming community versus the original game. I didn't have an issue
Yeah.
with it personally. I thought that it was well executed. And I told you this before, like, I didn't understand the hate that it got. I mean, to be fair, looking back on it now, Craven really didn't fit that story super well. He was almost a side character when he was advertised as the main villain, except for Venom, and then Venom just kind of gets rid of him when Venom actually comes out. There was a lot of weird stuff in terms of like the finale of the game, and like instead of having an actual fight with Venom, it was kind of crappy. You had the little like you were at the high school, which made sense story wise for what they were telling with the character, but it was not as fun to play like game mode wise, at least for a lot of players, and that was kind of the consensus. And then people, like you said, because Harry was never Venom in the storyline for any comics, people were upset about that. But that's one thing. Going into the Wolverine trailer, the reason that I am kind of frustrated, and I think a lot of people are frustrated with the trailer. First of all, when you are introducing a character that is as pivotal as Wolverine, number one, I want to get to in the trailer, they do stealth. Why are we doing stealth with Wolverine? Nobody wants that. I'm sorry, you can do it for Spider-Man, it makes sense, you web people up, whatever. Wolverine is a berserker. We understand, and we see that in the gameplay trailer, but what it feels to me like, you're doing the Mary Jane stealth with Wolverine. And I don't like that shit. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that for the character and for the game specifically. But when you are introducing, and I understand you introduce different characters, and we talked about this before, I think it's good to introduce different teams, different stories, different characters that maybe aren't referenced a lot. And we just talked about that with Spider-Noir and Megawatt and this and that. Silvermane, who is actually a comic book character, right? But that being said, when you are taking a property like Wolverine, right? The X-Men are, I mean, it's the same thing. You know, to me, you don't introduce a Team X, you don't do X-Factor, you don't do X-Force, you don't do any of those first, you do the X-Men. And by the way, with having Jean Grey in there, yes, she's a part of other teams, I understand this, but to the general audience of people, X-Men are the X-Men. That is the biggest franchise. That's it. You do those characters first, and you can do those spin-off teams. To me, you introduce those spin-off teams as a result, like you do Young Justice for the Justice League, or things like that, the New Avengers, right? For the previous Avengers. You can do those spin-offs, but you have to introduce those type of groups first. Like the big mainstream, you don't do the Fantastic Four and do a spin-off, or do a spin-off first, I should say, of like Johnny with Spider-Man, if you haven't done the Fantastic Four. You can't do that, to me. But for me, Wolverine is simultaneous with the X-Men if they're going to do other mutants, which they clearly are in this gaming universe. And I agree with you that it should be separate from Spider-Man. However, it's very interesting that there's nothing in New York at all about any of these characters for Spider-Man's games. Right? You don't hear anything about Trask or Trask Industries or anything like that. It's not even in New York in those games, which I understand. However, you would think that a big corporation like that might have made an appearance somewhere. But they'll obviously get to that.
So I'm kind of wondering if this game is gonna, like, it says it takes place all over the world, so I'm guessing Canada, Japan.
Yes.
Obviously those are gonna be two locations. If you don't know Wolverine, he's from Canada, so it's
Yeah.
going to take place in Canada. Wolverine spends quite a bit of time in Japan. But yeah, so here, I'll circle back to the team thing. I think it's well known at this point that his original team is not the X-Men, which is why I'm okay with them going a different team first. I definitely get what you're saying with the X-Men. Yes, they're one of the hugest franchise of Marvel. I mean, without the X-Men, we might not have what we have now in the Marvel Universe, just because how impactful they were when they came out. So I definitely get what you're saying. Like I said, I don't think that they're not going to have the X-Men at any point. I believe they're just trying to set up an X-Men game, because having Jean Grey in the game, that means that yes, there's probably an X-Men team already, but in the original comics, the X-Men were the X-Men. They were a team, but they really didn't do a lot of missions. Like, they were kept very quiet at first. Like the first issue, like no one had heard of them because all they had done had been Xavier's school, and they've just been using their powers for small little things and not getting their name out there. The first big thing they did was help a military base because Magneto was Magneto and he was super cheesy in the original comics. That's besides the point. But they were kept hidden. Another route that even like I think the MCU could go, the Krakoa Island, that's a big thing that we haven't seen yet that they could definitely use, and that could definitely be a reason that like mutants aren't really known about. I think that is a huge, huge thing that they can use story-wise that will make it make sense for them to not be there. I'm saying for MCU and even in this game, like they could travel to the Krakoan Island, they could travel to Genosha. There's so many different locations that we don't really know about yet. So I'm holding out hope. Like I said, the reason I'm okay with it is I feel as if the X-Men will be there at some point, and maybe they're just trying to set up a game. They're just trying to play it coy because they don't want to deal with leaks again because they dealt with a massive leak. It was gigabytes of data that got leaked from them. I, I don't know how that happened, but it was pretty big when it came out, and it messed a lot of things up because I think we're supposed to get a Venom game as well because they did it out of respect for him. But that was another one of the leaks was I believe that Venom game as well. And you know how we feel about leakers.
Yeah. um, yeah, I was circling back with the X-Men stuff and the Wolverine game. Like, if they are going to do games separate, like a sequel, and it's going to be X-Men playable, first of all, you would think that, as far as I'm aware, you only play from the director. You only play as Wolverine, even though Jean Grey is in the game. Sabretooth is in the game, and by the way, Sabretooth is. We already know what his story arc is going to be because he's supposed to be with Wolverine. That's what they said. But he's going to end up being a villain. We know that he's going to end up being a villain. But that being said, none of them are playable. And so that's very interesting decision. Like if you're going to move forward and Jean Grey and Wolverine become then in a sequel, which I still don't think they're going to do a sequel for X-Men. I really don't think they're going to do. I think it will be a second Wolverine game where maybe you have the ability to play some of the other mutants. And God forbid, man, if they don't put Gambit in the fucking game, I will be mad. I want Gambit to be a playable character in a game.
I can understand that. So I don't know if you saw in the trailer, but they did show like you don't get to play as Jean, but she gets to help you out, like in the
Yes.
fights and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's
So
what they did in
they're
Spider-Man 2 with Miles. Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely setting it up to where, because like you said, they did the same with Miles. Like he wasn't playable, but they set him up to help you. They might be doing the same thing with this game, is they're setting it up for future stories. I'm holding out hope because I've really enjoyed the Insomniac universe so far and the first two Spider-Man games, the Miles Morales spinoff that they did. It looks as if they set up a Silk spinoff too. We'll see if we ever get that.
Mm-hmm.
But first, we're getting this Wolverine game. I'm really excited about it. It looks awesome. The healing factor we get to see, the stealth. So here's how I kind of feel about the stealth. While yes, Wolverine does like to charge in and fight, he has been stealthy at times. Like it's never not happened.
Yeah.
But there's a gameplay explanation behind it. They were talking a little bit about it. I would have to have it in front of me to explain it in depth, but it's part of like to do with the health and the healing factor and all that stuff. They say the best way is to just charge in. So it's an option thing. Kind of
Yeah.
like with most stealth games. Like you had the option to be stealthy, but you're better off just going in and fucking shit up.
Yeah, and when you go back to the original Spider-Man game, that was a factor, right? Like you do the stealth, and then it charges up your meter so that you can use your suit's ability. And then, like if you're doing the waves for Fist Goons or for the Mr. Lee, the Mr. Negative goons, right? So you can do the stealth, you build up your meter, and that goes. And I'm sure it'll be the same thing for Wolverine. However,
Yeah.
to me, and yes, I know they did say that. You are correct in saying that they said go and charge in, and we see that when you have your rage ability and that you're able to re-heal when you're about to die. That makes sense. You go in and that becomes a factor of the character. However, to me, showing that in the gameplay trailer and that being the first thing that you see is the stealth, that to me was kind of like I don't know. I thought that the gore was well done. That it was kind of like the blood was weird. It looked weird, and hopefully they render that a little bit better as the
Yeah,
game goes to come out, because it looked kind of like PNG. Throw it on the screen. Oh, here's some Microsoft Paint fucking
yeah.
blood. Like, it looks like what I do
I
the
mean,
thumbnails. You know.
yeah, it's not a finished product. I think people kind of gloss over that. Like, this is not a finished product yet. This is just like where they're, I mean, we still got, what is it? It's June,
It'll be
August,
September,
July.
right?
We still got,
Yeah.
yeah, September 17th, I think. I gotta get that game pre-ordered.
You know what really sucks for me is I won't be able to play it unless I buy a PlayStation, because they're no longer doing the port to PC like they did for Spider-Man and for other PS4 games. So
I guess I'll just have to do a Let's Play for you.
let's play. Yeah, you should live stream it. You should. That'd be fun. Hell yeah.
It's been a minute.
See that
I'm really
gaming.
excited. So, dude, I need to get that popping again. But I'm really excited on like a father level too, because they have a mode that's gonna be like less blood and guts
Yes.
for people that are screen. So that makes me happy because I'm like, yes, I can play this with my son. Because my son, ever since, so in the second Spider-Man game, Miles has a costume that is like a Wolverine costume,
Yeah.
and ever since then, my son's always asking me, "Is the Wolverine game out yet? Is the Wolverine game out yet?" Dude, he's so anticipating this game, so I'm really excited as a father to get to be able to play this with him as well, just because they're going to have that mode. I'm sure there's going to be some language and I'm going to have to mute real quick, but he can't read, so it's all good.
He can't read. No, I think it's a very smart decision, because obviously you have the Spider-Man games and Spider-Man doesn't kill people, and even
Yeah,
and I really like the detail, by the way. I just want to throw it in that if you kick somebody off of a building, he has a web tied to him so they don't fall and die. Unlike the Arkham games, in which
yeah,
Batman just fucking kills people, dude. Batman will kill the
yeah,
fuck out of people in those games. But they do that in Spider-Man, and so having a Wolverine game, having the option to be less graphic and stuff like that, to have a younger audience, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm really happy that, as you said, that you're able to do that with your son, with younger kids. I think that's a really
yeah,
smart decision, and that's a very interesting thing. I want to segue back to like Spider-Noir, because this kind of makes me think of it. Having the black and white for an older audience versus having the colored for
mhm,
a younger audience, which is exactly what Nick
yeah,
Cage said that he pitched to the directors and team, because they were originally just doing black and white. However, he goes,
yeah,
you should shoot it in color, because a lot of these kids have never seen anything noir or black and white ever. And so having that with Spider-Noir, I think, was a good idea. I think having it here in the Wolverine game for graphic or not graphic is a good idea to have for an older
yeah.
audience and a younger audience.
Speaking of black and white, have you ever watched Logan in black and white?
I have not. That sounds
I haven't
interesting.
either, but there is a version of it out somewhere. I don't remember where I've seen it, but there is a black and white version. I definitely need to go back and watch that in a noir style.
I don't know how.
We got homework.
I'm just trying to picture it, because it could work. However, having like the Vegas lights and neon, and where Wolverine is sort of in that situation, I think it really suits it. But black and white could work. I don't know. I guess there's
Yeah,
really
I
no,
don't know. I never.
there's no powers that would be obscured by it, in the way that, yes, for like Spider-Noir, obviously Electro, when he's electrocuting people, he has them a different color basically when they're getting zapped, like if
Yeah,
you watch the color version. So there's a difference with that. Or for, like, as you said, the magma character in the beginning of the show, right, like having the difference in
yeah,
fire. But there is no mutant in that movie that has anything like colored powers. You have Charles, you have the Wolverine claws, the copy of Wolverine X-23.
hmm
Yeah, it could work. That'd be interesting to watch.
yeah. I never watched it, but I know they put out a version of it in black and white, and I always meant to go back and watch it, but I just have yet to go and do that.
Yeah. So going back to Wolverine and the video game and stuff like that, How do you feel about the way that Jean Grey looks? Not in terms of even we don't have to delve into the like actual copy of the model or whatever, but her outfit to me looks kind of shit. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
So to me, it looks like she is trying to be undercover and underground. I think that's
Hmm.
kind of the look they're going for, like she's like underground or something. I really like that they're displaying her powers as purple.
Interesting.
This is
Okay.
something, this is something we've never seen before with
Yes.
the use of Jean Grey. I like it because we have a lot of iterations, at least two confirmed iterations of Jean Grey, probably three, but we have different iterations of Jean Grey coming out this year. We've never seen her powers used in that way. So I think
Yes.
it's very interesting and it's going to bring something different to her character. I'm not even going to dive into her player model because guys are weird. Guys have problems.
Don't at me right now because I argued on Twitter about that. I think that the actresses are really pretty. I think there's just whatever is going on with Insomniac that they did for Mary Jane, and even when they redid Peter's character and they put out that update, and he
I've,
just looked way worse. I don't understand what they're doing because
yeah,
Kojima was doing it in 2008, having direct copies of the characters into games in Metal Gear. I don't know. I don't understand what happened where
yeah,
Insomniac is like, oh, we just make ugly characters now. Or PlayStation in general. They just, we have ugly character models, but the actresses are beautiful. I don't understand. That's me.
yeah. Like that stuff doesn't bother me. Like it's a character. She's a human being.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. But yeah, the outfit, it was interesting. And like I said, I just think they're trying to, maybe she's a part of Team X. Like, I don't know. There's a lot we don't know about the Wolverine game plot
Yeah.
wise, which is why I'm not throwing a huge fit like everyone seems to be doing. Either
Yeah.
I've I've seen no in between online. It's either people were in love and they're like, yes, or there's people that are like, go, burn the game to the ground. Like it's not that serious. The game isn't even out. You saw like a 7-minute trailer of a probably my guess is it'll probably be like a 30-hour campaign because that's around what
Yeah.
Spider-Man's at. So it's gonna be like 30, 40-hour campaign. You saw 7 minutes of it. Like, chill out. I hate when people just rage so much over things that they don't really know yet. Now, when the game comes out and these things play out and they want to have something to say, then that's fine. Let the game come out first. This was just a teaser trailer of a game it's probably 95% finished. It's not fully finished yet. It still has another couple months before it comes out. It's going to be more, I hope. I say this and games have come out and they weren't polished before.
Yeah.
So I'll say this with the hope because I've seen Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and the Spider-Man Miles Morales. Just let them do what they're doing. It should be fine.
Yeah.
Me personally,
Oh, you go ahead. Sorry. You led.
I'm I was gonna say, me personally, I'm still just excited to have a Wolverine game because we haven't had a Wolverine game, a good Wolverine game since the X-Men Origins game, which that movie was horrible, but they made it a great game. So, and I just love Wolverine. That's one of my top three favorite Marvel characters.
So here's my situation, circling back to like Team X, because you had mentioned obviously, and we know that it's going to be Team X in the story for the game. It's interesting to me that they took because Wolverine, when he was prior to being in the X-Men, didn't have the yellow suit. Am I correct in saying that? I believe that he.
No.
Am I okay? Cool. When did he get the yellow suit? Was that when he was on the original Canadian team?
So I'm not sure, but maybe he was actually. So his first appearance was in a Hulk comic book.
Yeah. Okay.
He had the yellow costume. I don't think he was a part of the X-Men yet. I think he worked for Canada at that time.
Hmm.
I would have to go back and look it up, but I know his first appearance was in a Hulk comic book. He was hunting down the Hulk and he was doing it for Canada.
Interesting. Let me actually see. When did Wolverine get his yellow suit in the
Well, I
comics?
mean, I was gonna say he had it in his first appearance. So,
Yeah, the Incredible Hulk. Yeah, 1974. So showing. Yeah. Okay. See, oh, it's not giving me the correct answer that I want. I that would be very interesting to find. Was Wolverine on the X-Men? Actually, let's see this. Was Wolverine on the X-Men when he got his yellow suit, or did he get it prior? It's not working. Anyway, that would be interesting to see. I do think it is very synonymous with the X-Men, though, especially in the iterations. Obviously, we didn't get the
Yeah.
yellow suit until Deadpool and Wolverine on the big screen. So, to me, it is synonymous with the X-Men. But with you talking about with Jean Grey's outfit, her being sort of undercover or stealthy somewhat, if that's the appearance that they're going for, I find it very interesting. We're going to have to see, obviously, with the story, but that Wolverine is in the bright yellow instead of being in a stealth mode or something like that, where you have Jean Grey that appears and maybe he's interrupting something she's doing, and that leads to the question of, is this them going to gather the Team X? But he knows Jean already. He's like, oh yeah, Red, in the trailer. So that could be a story point, right? Like, are they formulating the team, or does the team exist already that they're hunting down Trask?
Yeah, it could also be he's ran into her before and she always seems to be helping, but he doesn't know who she is, and that's why he referred to her as Red. Cause he call her Jean at all? Do we know
No,
that?
not in the trailer. I don't believe. I think he just says Red.
Okay,
It's a
so
very familiar tone, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, like I said, it could be he's ran into her multiple times at this point, and she always seems to be helping him out, and then she always just disappears.
hmm. And I do want to say I agree with you with the purple. I think the reason, obviously, they did it for a game setting is to make it something that's visual, especially since you're not going to be playing the character, and having her as a side that's going to help you in combat, to be able to see what the character is doing instead of just flicking her hands or whatever. You know what I mean? Because when you're fighting as Wolverine, certainly you're going to be focused on the character that's going to be primarily on your screen, and the stabbing and jabbing and whatever you're doing with the character. But to have that as a visual, it makes sense for the game. Obviously, like you said, we haven't seen that in any other iteration, but it makes sense that you're visually able to see that. What is my companion doing? Because you know how we're going to be when we play the game on like super hard difficulty and we're getting our asses beat. We're like, what is this bitch doing? But you can actually see what she's doing. I mean, I won't get my ass beat. I'm good at games, but
I don't play games at super hard difficulty. I suck at video games.
I'm replaying in New Game Plus for the original Spider-Man on the top difficulty. It's really not that hard. I thought it was going to be way more than it was, but
For me, I struggle with the missions trying to catch those vulture things in Spider-Man 2. Those were so hard.
Oh man. Well, also too, you're playing on controller though, versus me on
That's
the
true.
PC. So I have the precision of the mouse,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you're correct in the sense that Wolverine. We need to wait until the game comes out. I do want to say though, going back to what you were mentioning, the reason why it's so split and why everybody's on one side or the other instead of having people in kind of a neutral stance. I think that a lot of people were disappointed with Spider-Man 2. There's a consensus that the game was kind of disappointing to people, and they felt like the storylines were kind of meh. Which Spider-Man 1 is, it might be the best Spider-Man game ever. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think storyline, I think character-wise, I think even doing the changes that they did with the characters, everything was kind of perfect. The story was perfect. And bringing in Mr. Negative as like a primary villain and switching to Doc Ock, I thought that was excellent. And the fact is, by the way, I hope in the next game we get Green Goblin because of the way that Norman is trending. I think that'll be the main villain of the next one.
They teased it at the end of Spider-Man 2 that he was becoming the Green Goblin, so
yeah. But that being said, with Wolverine or with Spider-Man 2, people were very let down by that game. A lot of people were. So I think a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that because that game in their eyes were bad, which I don't believe. I thought it was a good game. It wasn't as good as Spider-Man 1. But that's why people are having such a toxic opinion about Wolverine.
So here's what I'm gonna say. I think the reason Spider-Man 2 is viewed as poorly as it is because I kind of agree with this. It didn't have DLCs like the first one did.
Hmm.
So there was plot lines in the Spider-Man 2 game that didn't get cleared up with any type of DLC or anything. Like the whole Carnage thing, like that never got cleared
Yes.
up. And there's stuff like that that didn't get cleared up that I think this time around they didn't want to do DLC because I think they're just going to leave it for the next game. But that worries me too if we have Carnage and Green Goblin, which could turn to the Red Goblin, and then we could have Peter Parker's Spider-Man die in this game like he did in the Ultimate Comics. Who knows? But I digress. I really do hope we get Green Goblin in the third Spider-Man game. I know eventually it's going to happen. I know a lot of people are disappointed with the second Spider-Man game. I wasn't personally. I really enjoyed it. I liked the changes that they did and that it made sense for the characters' trajectories and the characters' stories. Like the stuff they did made sense. The people that didn't like it are those, like I said, I think a lot of people were mad because they didn't feel like the campaign was long enough. They didn't get DLCs like we got with the first game. There was some abandoned stuff because of those leaks. Like I believe there was supposed to be an online multiplayer mode. There's supposed to be the stuff with the multiverse. There's stuff like that that got kept out of this game. I really think ooh, the leaks that happened really messed up a lot of Insomniac's plans, and I don't think a lot of people take that into consideration. They're like, well, they should just work around that, yada yada yada. But I think those leaks were a huge issue. I enjoyed Spider-Man 2 for what it was. Maybe it wasn't as long as it should have been. That's fine. They're going to make another game. They
Yeah.
set up future storylines with Silk. They set up Miles taking over the mantle, which is why I think they could potentially go the route of having Green Goblin kill Spider-Man in the third game. Oh, you good, buddy? Um, my dog just sneezed on me. But I think they could go that route with the third Spider-Man game. I'm not really gonna get too far into how I feel about what they should do in the future or anything. We could say that for a future podcast, but the Wolverine game, I'm excited for it. There's going to be controversy around it. There's always controversy around it. There's controversy around Wolverine being the main focus of the X-Men movies. Wolverine
Yeah.
just has controversy always surrounding him. It's just what his character is at this point.
Well, to be fair, and I want to first, well, let's go back first, in terms of with him being the main focus of the movies, because I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, being the focus of the movies, Wolverine is an iconic character. He's up there, in the comics at least, he was, and he still continues to be up there with Hulk and Spider-Man, and in those conversations from Marvel Comics. Fantastic Four obviously was the big deal. X-Men is a big deal, but Wolverine completely outshines them, even as an individual character most of the time. He mogs them. That's what he does.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. And obviously when you have a generational talent like Hugh Jackman, who continues to play the character and represents the character very well, even in the sense that the movies might be shit, but he's always the best part of those movies regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, obviously they're going to focus on him. And yes, there's controversy derived from that. There are, as you know, you were saying, there are people who are complaining about the fact that there is a Wolverine game. And I think that leads into with the controversy of there not being an X-Men. I think that leads into
Yeah.
that you're taking a Wolverine character. You have a lot of X-Men and mutant fans that are not going to see the X-Men represented in a game that people want to play, and it's going to be heavily focused on Wolverine. Is there a potential for there being a sequel with X-Men? I interpreted it differently than you did, in which, you know, you believe that there
Yeah.
will be an X-Men game in the future. I don't think they're going to do that. As I said, I think they will probably do a sequel to Wolverine. They'll do a Wolverine 2, and they'll name it something else. And you'll have playable characters that are X-Men. But I don't think they're going to be a team in that sense that they will ever be labeled the X-Men. I think they're going to do Team X. They'll do the same branding with the X, but I don't think they're going to lean into that. And can they adapt those characters and take those characters and put them into that team, even though that's not how they are in the comics, exactly, you know, mark for mark with? Yes, they could. I don't think it's a licensing issue. I think it's an inclusivity issue. I think having the
Yeah.
X-Men has been a controversial thing in terms of like the title name. Team X makes more
Yeah.
sense for that regard, and obviously PlayStation is kind of leaning into that. But that's just my
Yeah.
opinion.
That's one thing these games too, they've really been about inclusivity. So I get where you're coming from, how you think they may not do the X-Men just because the controversy surrounding the name of the team. That's been something that's been going on for years now. So I get where you're coming from that. And yeah, maybe they won't, but I mean, even if they don't, I'm not someone that's gonna be too offended by that because I know who they are. I'm gonna
Yeah.
call them the X-Men when I see them. Like, I think everyone else will do the same thing. There's just gonna be that group of people that are gonna bitch, oh, they're the X-Men. Oh well, like, come on, grow up.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it is I definitely understand the inclusivity and wanting to make it more inclusive for other people. I get that. Sure, fine, whatever. I just think that the title name of the X-Men is so big that not including it in any capacity for a game in which you're introducing mutants, including Jean Grey, is a not wise decision. That's why we had that
Yeah,
disagreement, right? Because for me, I would think that if you're going to do a Wolverine game, you're going to have the X-Men. The X-Men are iconic. And the fact is, obviously, this is a Sony property and a Sony video game. We have X-Men 97. The title name is X-Men still. So,
yeah,
I mean, obviously there is differences and controversies and whatever. But to me, the X-Men are the X-Men. And by the way, the most two, three of the most powerful X-Men are women. You have Storm, you have Jean, and when she becomes the Phoenix, right? So to
yeah,
me, it's a mind-boggling thing to even have controversy over, but I mean, I get it, I guess,
yeah,
but we'll see.
yeah. Dude, and also, like, we're getting Morlocks in a Wolverine game. Let's go.
I think, I think the story. Let me preface it first. I believe that genuinely it's going to be a good game, and again, I am of the opinion that Spider-Man 2 wasn't a bad game. I thought that it was fun. I actually really liked the fact that you got to see New York turn into Venom Land. I thought that was cool with the
Oh, it was
symbiotes or
crazy.
whatever. Which, by the
Oh, I
way,
got mad trying to swing around New York and getting stopped by symbiotes all the time.
oh, you just had to continue using your wingsuit, man. I mean, you just, come on. Which is what I kind of don't like the wingsuit. I thought it was a kind of weird gameplay decision because I actually like the swinging in Spider-Man a lot.
Yeah,
And having to rely so heavily on the wingsuit, but when I played the original game the first time, I never used fast travel, not once. This time I am
nope,
like going and replaying and doing New Game Plus. I am just there's tedious missions. I'm doing the main story, so obviously
yeah.
before I do the DLCs, which I actually haven't played the DLCs, so that'll be fun. But
I
yeah,
never played the DLCs either.
yeah, I will be when I continue and finish this New Game Plus. So that'll be the next step. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to do Wolverine without having the X-Men. I think it very well could work. I know the game will be fun. Like I said, I enjoyed Spider-Man 2. I will enjoy this game if I ever get to play it because I have to get a PlayStation first. But I think I'll enjoy it regardless. And the thing is, yes, they have taken in the Spider-Man a different direction with the characters. But again, they have the core elements. I keep saying that every podcast. The core elements of the character were intact. And by the way, we got Peter being a depressed fucking loser instead of a Tony Stark little rich boy. You know, that was a
Yeah,
big deal. That to me, you know, having a representation of the character to the core, and Miles as well.
yeah,
MJ even too, as much as I hated playing as her in a Spider-Man game, that is very MJ like to be the reporter
yeah,
who's like, I'm gonna get myself. It's like they really did a Lois Lane arc with her in the game. I'm gonna be the reporter that goes and gets this scoop, and I get into trouble, and then I have to be saved by
yeah.
Spider-Man until they gave her the fucking the Silver Sable taser, which I was like,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
And in the second game, yeah, I was like, okay, so now we can shoot people with the taser. All right, cool. I'm Mary Jane now. Yeah, I think Wolverine will be fun. I
Yeah, and
Yeah.
You're speaking of core elements, like we even kind of saw from the trailer, like the kid's like, "Are you a hero?" And he's like, "I'm Wolverine." Like that is very on brand for Wolverine as a character. Like that's one of his core things. Like he's never viewed himself as a hero. He just he views himself as someone that's trying to do the right thing that a lot of times does the wrong thing because he has that Wolverine rage. Like he can't always control it, and that when that Berserker rage comes out, that's when the Wolverine comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, so we obviously will see with that, but then talking about core elements of characters, I do want to go back to Spider-Noir since, we're getting to that point with Wolverine where we're kind of like, all right, we're at the end point for that. With the core elements, I want to really bring into focus how well done the core elements of the characters were in the show. We did mention it kind of briefly, but just going and circling back to it. These characters are the iterations and the core that I want for, like, let's just say Tombstone. Tombstone going into Brand New Day. I think it's going to be not challenging. I think the actor is very, very good. Obviously, I loved him as the racist albino in Black Lightning, which is hilarious, the lines that they gave that guy. It's going to be interesting to see how they adapt going from Spider-Noir to the mainline Spider-Man movie, which will include some of the characters. And from what I heard from CinemaCon, I was actually listening to the Escape Pod, and Alex was there watching the trailer for Brand New Day. He was like, in the trailer, they show that Tombstone is the one who is driving the tank. So that's which is interesting because we see like the female character in the trailer, but that to me sounds like obviously it's going to be a switch up in the way they've done in the trailers before, because he was saying at the CinemaCon one, they were showing Tombstone and he was the full albino. And if you look at the Lego sets, they show him as that full albino. They did some artwork for like comic panels and whatever recently, which Scorpion, you see Scorpion as Mando, right? Isn't his, I forget what his name is.
I don't remember.
Yeah, from obviously Breaking Bad and, or Better Call Saul. But his character, anyway, they show him and the comic iteration. They also show Tombstone holding Peter by his like neck or something over a skyscraper. And it looks like he has a brown suit and he has the full white skin. I think his hair looks a little whack, but that's just me. It's like, it's comic. It's very comic. However, I think it looks weird in live action versus how it does in like Spider-Verse. It makes sense. And obviously the character in Spider-Verse looks a little taller. Yeah. Which, having hair when you could do him bald like you do for, the Spider-Man game. Interesting decision for the design. But yeah.
Yeah, is that I heard now I'm hearing because we had rumors that it was going to drop last episode, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm hearing rumors like June 17th might be when they drop the trailer now. There's been leaks about it. I'm not going to jump into it because I've read some of the leaks and
I mean, we got burned with it anyway with the leaks on on the last episode, in which we were like, "Oh my god, there might be a trailer." There wasn't a trailer for Doomsday or for Spider-Man this whole fucking week. We did get Wolverine, which is cool, but
yes,
and it gave us something to talk about. But yeah, it is very interesting to me that the movie is coming out so soon, and we haven't gotten. This is maybe the first time that we haven't gotten a real trailer. Like, we got the trailer, sure, but it leads nothing. There's nothing.
this is how you need to do it because everybody is talking about this movie because they don't know shit about this movie. That is how you put asses in seats.
Oh man, it is very.
Levi agrees with me.
Oh yeah, I love the fact that they are doing it, but also it drives me up a wall. And by the way, you can't do this with a lot of movies. You can get away with it if you're Marvel for Spider-Man and Doomsday because they have motion. Like, you got motion with Spider-Man. You know that people are gonna fill those seats regardless.
Oh yeah.
But to leave people like, if you were to put out Captain Marvel movie, which obviously didn't do super well. But you go to do, or even the new Avengers, let's use the Thunderbolts as an example. People didn't go to see the movie because those characters don't have motion. And even though you put the characters in the trailer, you couldn't do what they're doing with Spider-Man right now with the Thunderbolts. It would tank even harder than it did. And it was a good movie. So
Yeah.
but it is driving me up a wall because I at least want to see what Tombstone looks like outside of the Lego sets. I want to see Tombstone.
Yeah.
I would like to see a glimpse of him. It is. I mentioned this to you. We don't know who the main villain of the film is. We don't have any idea. Like, we knew in the original one, it's going to be Vulture, right? Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
Mysterio. You know who the villains are. And Spider-Man 3, you know, for this series with Tom Holland, obviously is all of them, which is kind of a cop-out. I'm just going to say that. Kind of a cop-out.
Yeah.
But Green Goblin becomes the main villain, even though you have the Sinister Six from the other universes.
Yeah.
We don't know anything. We know the hand's gonna be there, or what we presume to be the hand, which maybe it's just some fucking ninjas. We don't know. They're never referenced as the hand.
It's the hand.
I
It's
know.
definitely the fucking hand.
And but
No.
but having the hand in Tombstone and Scorpion, and we know that Punisher's there. Do you think? And I wanted to bring this up. I'm glad that I thought of it again. With them doing Man Spider and Spider-Noir, do we think that they're going to lean into some Man Spider? Really? You don't think so?
Nope.
I think it's a weird decision to give him powers, like different powers, or having the webs now. But
I think the most we'll see is maybe him growing like different arms out of his side, and that's when he goes to see Bruce, and maybe he has like covered up. I think that's the most we'll see out of it. I don't think we're gonna get a full-on Man Spider. But, you know, if the leaks are true about who the main villain of this movie is, which I hope they're not, I'm gonna fucking throw a brick through a window.
I didn't see what you're talking about, so I couldn't tell you. But
We'll talk after. You know I don't like giving those leaks the light of day.
yeah. Well, there's so many different accounts, man. I had to actually mute accounts on Twitter because they were like, "Oh, when I got burned for like the trailer going to be released, and then they weren't released," and these people were like, "But you know what? You know what's really crazy? The fact that they hosted that panel for Doomsday and for the Russos, and the surprise that Marvel did was coffee." Like Doom coffee. I was like,
Dude,
are you out of your fucking skull?
So, you know, they had those cons and they show all the trailers for the movies. They showed the one for Doomsday. Did you hear about the shit they did so that trailer didn't get leaked?
No, I hadn't. What happened with it?
Bro, they had like infrared lights that if anyone tried recording it, it would distort their entire video so you couldn't see anything on it. Like they were so top secret about that shit. Like they're very serious about the plot of this movie not getting leaked. All right,
Yeah.
dog, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting that they've taken this stand versus what Marvel normally does, because normally they're dropping trailer. Like, I understand for Doomsday, obviously, that it's still very far away. However, when
Yeah.
you're talking about Spider-Man, the fact that they haven't dropped more inclusive a look inside of the movie versus the very minuscule amount that we get in that one trailer, I think it's very, very different approach for Marvel.
I think they also know they don't have to because, like you said, it's Spider-Man. You're gonna get people watching that movie anyways. All they needed to do is get that little teaser, and everyone's been talking, forming theories, leaking stuff that's not true. Like, they're doing it right. I don't know if this was their initial plan, but they're doing it right, and people are going to be buying tickets, and it's going to be sold out everywhere.
And you know what? I do want to ask you, because you don't believe that Man Spider will be in the movie. So, with the possession, do you think, of Peter being possessed, do you think that it's going to be the symbiote that was in the Venom crossover with Tom Hardy, where the symbiote was left? Do you think the symbiote will be introduced? Okay.
I think it makes sense. I saw a theory saying how maybe the symbiote finds Peter because he's struggling, and you know the symbiote likes to find a host and yada yada. I seen that theory. I'm not gonna say it's a leak. It was just a theory.
Yeah,
I like the idea of introducing the symbiote when Spider-Man is at his lowest.
that
I
makes
think
sense.
it makes sense. And in the comics, the symbiote Venom isn't necessarily a bad person. He just became addicted to Spider-Man because of the abilities he has, how he's not like his normal host.
Yeah.
So I truthfully think this is the greatest time to introduce the symbiote. And they were talking about how, Peter made his suit in this movie
Yeah.
and that it could be made from the symbiote and he doesn't even know it, which could be triggering these, transformations and everything. Like I said, there's still so much we don't know, and I've loved some of the theories I've seen. I'm so excited to go in and see this movie. I'm not excited that Jean Grey is potentially in this movie.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Yeah, with it being, I believe that they will introduce the symbiote. However, the fact that they're taking the approach by which they show Scorpion in the trailer, but they don't show Venom, which Venom is how they market. Like, if Venom is involved in something, Venom is in every trailer. If they are hiding the
Yeah.
symbiote in the movie, that would be breaking crazy ground for anything Spider-Man related to not be showing that character in any trailer, any media. Obviously, they're taking that
Yeah.
different approach as it stands, but to do it with Venom that's a choice. And as far as I'm aware, he's not in any of the Lego sets for the movie. So I don't know. To me, you
Yeah,
have,
like I said,
yeah,
if they kept that a secret from even the Lego sets, because the Lego sets very often spoil shit
yeah,
if you actually pay attention to them. If they even managed to avoid a Lego
yeah.
spoiler, oh my Lord, they cooked with this.
And that's the thing is, what we're given in the trailer, it would make sense to me that whoever is mind controlling people would be able to mind control Spider-Man, right? That makes
Yeah.
sense. That is fully understandable. If we're going by that logic, then it wouldn't be Venom that's going, like, if you play the second Spider-Man game, Peter at one point when you do play as Mary Jane for some fucking reason, Peter is enveloped by the symbiote and the symbiote takes over and then he goes on a
Yeah.
rampage, right? He
Mhm.
has no recollection of this. He wakes up on a park bench afterwards. So, with that being the case, would it be either, maybe both, right? Maybe he gets mind control because we see his eyes change color in the trailer. Like he gets that black fade
Yeah.
away. So either it's the symbiote or the mind control person, but and that goes into Jean Grey, right? If she is
Oh,
Jean Grey, is she going to be mind controlling people or is it the symbiote? What do we think for Tom Holland? Who
well,
is manipulating him?
did you see the link that I sent you?
Which one? Probably not. There's
It was the one. It was the one that potentially there's a guy in the movie that might actually be Mindworm,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
believe was
You
the
sent it
name.
to me earlier. Yeah.
Yes, I thought that was very intriguing. Like that would be a great way to do that without making Sadie sing Jean Grey, which I would be completely okay with. It would make sense that you wouldn't see him as the main villain because he's like, oh, this is just some background guy. Boom, we have our main villain there, and he was hidden in plain sight. Like there's so many different routes this movie could take, and that's why it's got everyone talking because no one knows shit about this movie.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's rumors that Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. Obviously, that one's circulating because obviously it makes the most sense. Redhead, younger age, Jean Grey.
Yeah.
If it is, it is. Hopefully, it's not.
With you
But
talking about,
there's so many different routes.
yeah. I was gonna say with you talking about that potentially for the whoa, what was the uh, what was his name in the comics for the villain you were talking
Are
about?
you
You were
talking
trying, yeah,
the
yeah,
mind worm?
Mind Worm.
Man, let
So
me go. Yeah,
with they set up damage control in Wonder Man. So I don't know if you would necessarily make that the super villain. Obviously, he is going to be playing a part in the movie. We know that. Like, I think Damage Control might be the main antagonist. And I think that Peter is going to be working with them. I really do. Because to me, you have Tombstone. Tombstone is not a villain. Yes, he is he is a villain, but he's more, nuanced. He's a more nuanced character. Scorpion is just a straight up villain. Everything we know about Scorpion, he's just that guy. I think, to me, and the fact that you have Punisher, I think Damage Control is, this is my speculation, going to be the main plot device behind the tank. It's going to be behind whoever Sadie Sink is playing. I think Sadie Sink obviously is going to be a huge part in whatever happens in the movie. Yeah. But to me, Damage Control, if you're going to do Jean Grey, Damage Control trying to keep mutants under wraps makes a lot of sense. Because we haven't heard anything, obviously, this is coming before Doomsday. We haven't heard anything about mutants. This will be the first introduction of mutants, if it is Jean Grey.
Was not Sam Wilson, was the guy that Wonder Man a mutant?
Well, actually, maybe. I don't know how they classify him.
Yeah, because
they did. The Doorman, Doorman 2 was. Wonder Man is so pivotal, and nobody watched the damn thing, and it's so good. But you're right.
Yeah, it introduced the mutants.
But we've never heard it in the mainline MCU.
Miss Marvel is also a mutant. They made her a mutant.
This is so interesting because you have these characters, right? And the fact that mutants are under wraps, however, there was a national event level because of Doorman in the Wonder Man show, and that blacklisting them from Hollywood. That is how do you... The fact that we haven't heard about mutants at all in any other properties except for, like you said, Miss Marvel or for Wonder Man is really... Obviously, yes, it's licensing. How are they going to work this in? They're just... You know what's probably going to happen? They're probably just going to go, mutants have always been here. Fuck it. That's probably what they're just going to do.
That, or brought up before, do the Krakoa Island. That's like... Really, that's, I think, the best way they can do it at this point is just talk about Krakoa Island and how some mutants, they didn't end up on the island. I think that's the best way they can do it at this point, other than just explaining, oh, they were here the whole time in the background. They've been working in silence. That shit don't work. We have too much lore and everything. Yeah, because I do believe Wonder Man was classified as a mutant.
Yeah.
Doorman was a mutant, and they did classify Miss Marvel a mutant, even though she's actually inhuman. It made the actor mad.
Yeah.
She even called Marvel out on that. But yeah, so horrible angles right now. But yeah, I think I don't know. I just don't know. This movie frustrates me.
It is. Well, and that's the thing. We have been, as fans, when we go, we see the trailers and we can generally figure out what is happening to some regard, or even title names for certain movies. You go, oh, Winter Soldier, Bucky's gonna be there, right? Like, you understand, and that's his introduction to the universe. So, but having a story like this and having a movie and having a trailer and not giving anything away is completely foreign to anything that we've experienced as fans of Marvel over the last, since 2009 with Iron Man. Like, you knew Iron Man, oh my god, Iron Man's gonna be there, right? And you see the villains in the trailers, and for everything Spider-Man, we've gotten, whether it's posters or Legos or whatever, spoiling action figures, we know generally, especially for Tom Holland, we knew who the villains were going into it. We don't know anything about this movie.
Well, that's why I think it's so crazy to have Sadie Sink's role not actually said yet.
Yeah.
Because we've never had an actor of that caliber in a movie, and her name hasn't been said once.
Yeah.
Literally once.
Yeah. And again, like you said, I think Damage Control will play... Damage Control, I think, will be a huge part. I think it's going to be... I genuinely believe they will be the primary organization that is the villain antagonist in this film that are manipulating Spider-Man to some capacity, because Damage Control, in the comics, Damage Control is cleanup duty, essentially, for superheroes, right? Am I being correct in that assumption?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're obviously taking a different angle because they are villains and taking in Wonder Man, they're imprisoning people. They're very clearly antagonistic in the Wonder Man show. I believe that this overarching organization will be the antagonist, and they are manipulating in the same way that Wilson Fisk manipulates people. I think they will be manipulating Spider-Man to work with them. And we haven't even looked at the angle of what is the opinion for Spider-Man, because we don't know anything with him in connection to Born Again or to the Punisher, but the Punisher is going to be in this movie. We're just kind of completely in the dark. But Damage Control, I do believe, will be the overarching, because they haven't come out with a main antagonist. They haven't, which is completely foreign to anything Spider-Man ever. We knew who the main antagonists were in Tobey's and Andrew's and for all of Tom's, but we don't know that here. So it leads me to believe that maybe it's going to be an overarching thing, which would make sense if Damage Control is pulling the strings for the release of Scorpion, or manipulating or even paying the Hand to go and have him released in some capacity, or manipulating Tombstone, because we know Tombstone is typically not just a straight up villain. He's normally a more nuanced character, by which maybe an anti-hero or a villain, lower capacity. Yeah. So
The reason I made that face was we're having the conversation about the mutants. They also kind of teased that Wanda was a mutant. Because they had I don't remember where it was, but they had the vision of her looking back at her childhood, and she kind of displayed the abilities that she has. And it was kind of a subtle thing, not saying for sure, but almost like teasing that Wanda was a mutant. I don't remember what project it was, but they did tease that she was a mutant as well.
They had the scene of her and Quicksilver where they were like locked up. I forget what movie it was. Maybe was it Black Panther? No, it wasn't Black Panther, because that was Civil. Maybe it was Black Panther, right? Because of Ulysses Claw going to give or like steal the vibranium. I don't remember. I do remember the scene in which you're talking about, though, where at least they showed them in like capacity. They're being held and they're both showing their powers. Like Wanda is like cubes or something.
It wasn't even that one. It was like when they were children back in like their hometown.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. And you did want to bring this up too. You said there were two projects that were in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, correct? Yeah. So lay it on me.
Vision Quest, which they explained in the timeline that takes place right after WandaVision. So there's Vision Quest, and then there was an untitled movie. Here's what I'm thinking with that untitled movie. I believe that is going to be a Doctor Strange movie. He is going to be. Was he announced for Doomsday? Was Benedict Cumberbatch announced?
I don't know. I didn't watch the 6-hour seat thing that they did.
So if he wasn't announced for that, here's what I'm thinking. He is in the multiverse while the events of Doomsday are happening. So when he comes back, it might be in Secret Wars where the actual Doctor Strange comes back, and he comes back to a world that is slightly different.
He was not announced for Doomsday.
Okay. So my guess is his movie is the one that's in between. We've seen at the end of his second movie that he goes into the multiverse with whatever her name was. So what I'm thinking is he's in that multiverse, and when things are going on, he doesn't know that that's happening. And when he comes back, the universe he comes back to is his, but it's changed. And he is the only one that has memory of the predated changed universe.
So you're leaning fully into the idea then that there will be a soft reboot with Doomsday and not Secret Wars. Or maybe, I mean, they could change things in Secret Wars, obviously, but Doomsday will be...
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be, I feel like it's so difficult to pull it off because you have to think about the fact that you are, if you're going to reshape everything, I don't like it, but I understand why they have to do it for mutants and things like that, right? To introduce the Fantastic Four and or mutants. Do we think
I'll
then,
jump into that too.
yeah, go ahead. Oh,
So
actually, yeah, go ahead.
the first movie after Secret Wars is supposed to be an X-Men movie.
Hmm.
That's like their first slated movie after Secret Wars.
So, I guess the question
So
then
they're jumping
is,
right into the mutants after Secret Wars.
so I guess the question becomes then, for Doomsday, Secret Wars, is it going to be in capacity like Infinity War and Endgame, by which they are one part, two part? You know what I mean? Or is it going to be
I
separated because if they're going to have only two projects in between, and one of them is
yeah,
predating the events of Doomsday,
yeah.
you have to be treating it in the capacity where it is that type of event, which is the same thing they
It's
did for Infinity War and
yeah,
Endgame.
it's gotta be. Like there's no way at this point, because we had that conversation. What are they gonna do in between? Well, the in between is a show that takes place after another show, and then
Mhm.
an untitled movie, which we don't even know what it is. I just have a speculation that it's gonna be a Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
We don't know what's taking place. So my guess is, yeah, it's gotta be a part one, part two. I like that they're not going. Well, I mean, even Infinity War and Endgame, they didn't go with the same, working title. They had a different title, so it makes sense that it would be part one, part two, but Doomsday and then Secret War, Secret War.
Yeah. Yeah, with you saying that when you had mentioned that there were only two projects, because we had talked about that, it does make sense that it has to be something like that. And it would make sense then to your theory that it will be a soft reboot in some capacity, at least for Doomsday. I think if I would think that they might do something similar to the snap as they did in Infinity War, which would be like a soft, okay, not as in like, oh my god, half
Yeah.
the universe is dying in this film, but there is going to be consequences to the end of Doomsday that they will explore more in Secret Wars, and Secret Wars will
Yeah.
probably be that type of finality and resetting the universe. They'll
hmm
probably won't lean fully into it for me. I would think yes, it would be a soft reboot for Doomsday, but it would be soft there. And if they're only doing those two projects, moving forward, maybe there will be some connection for that one movie we don't know in between. I believe that Secret Wars will be that sort of finality and resetting of the universe. I think they'll probably let Doom win in some capacity. I think Doom will
Oh
will
yeah.
in the same way Thanos did, especially with the Russos coming back and doing it. Doom is going to be the main character. I just have to assume that Doom is going to be the main character in the way that Thanos was. He
Yeah.
is that. He has that motion. Doom is him.
The thing
You know what
though,
I mean?
the thing though, we don't even know if Doom's supposed to be a villain in that movie. That's the crazy thing to me. Like, we don't actually know the villain of that movie either. Yeah, the movie's titled Doomsday, but we don't actually know if he's the villain yet.
I think it's going to be multiversal multiple Dooms. I would assume they're going to use him in the capacity they would have liked to use Kang, but they didn't because of the off the screen issues that happened, and they pushed Kang away and the actor away as a
Well,
result of that. I think they'll use him in the same capacity. I think
I
there
don't
were
know.
plans. I think there were plans to use the character of Kang like that.
Well, they were talking about it. I think it was the Russos. Matter of fact, they said Kang may not be in this, but he had a part in this. So they're
Yeah.
not even completely scrapping the idea of Kang. They're just scrapping the actor. Like they straight up said, like his plan was put in motion for this to happen.
Well, and that's what if that's what they are referencing in the way that you're saying. The thing that I'm saying is they probably took the character of Kang and what their idea was, what Marvel's idea was for the character, and they are now doing it with Doom instead. I think the end goal was to get the mutants and the Fantastic Four in the mainline MCU. I think that was always the purpose of
Yeah.
where they were going with the multiversal events and things like that. So Kang made sense in the capacity that that's what his character was and is in the comics, that he is a multiversal type of being, right? So
Yeah.
that makes sense. But then having the off-the-screen issues that arose at that time, which were deemed to not be true anyway, whatever, they separated ties with the actor regardless. For the most part, as far as we understand, he's not coming back. But for him to have inspired what happens in Doomsday leads me to believe that they are taking the same concept that they would with Doom, leading to then being multiple Dooms likely in the movie. And I don't think that RDJ will remain, especially with how expensive he is to be an actor in those movies, which is why they tried to push him away from Iron Man anyway, right? For him coming back and playing those roles for the expense that he is as the actor, I don't think he's going to remain Doom. And it wouldn't make sense for him to be Doom. I just don't think... I think there are multiple characters by which will be played by multi-dimensional Dooms. Maybe you won't... Even like one Doom, two Doom in the story of Marvel Rivals. You could have something like that. I think there will be alternate versions of the character. So, we will see. And that to me also means that would be Loki's inclusion in that holding the sacred timeline together. Which, obviously, having multiversal... a big multiversal level event would make sense that Loki would have to intervene in some capacity, and I think that will be in the movie. But that's my speculation, you know?
Yeah.
All right. You have anything else you want to talk about? Or you want to end it up? You have your baby chilling there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good ending point. We hit on some pretty good points today. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll do our not tomorrow, next week, and we'll do our homework again.
Yeah, sounds good. And hopefully at some point we get a new Spider-Man trailer. Hopefully we don't get burned again. I mean, I didn't say that there's going to be one this time, you know, but I would like to see one.
That is true.
But yeah, thank you all for watching. We appreciate the support and continue to post, by the way, on Tuesdays at 9 in the morning. Regular posting, because I am awesome like that. Post them and do the thumbnails. But yeah, so anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next week.